Imagine a world where you don't want to stress eat, where you don't want to overeat, where you don't even have the desire to reach for chocolate when you feel down, and where eating healthy is not only what you want to do, but it's easy and satisfying. In this world, you don't have to struggle constantly to restrain yourself from eating that second cookie. You don't think about food all the time. It's just not exciting for you anymore. And in this world, you eat when you're hungry, you stop when you're full, you naturally land at your ideal weight and you stay there. You have the energy and mental clarity to enjoy your life. You feel free and you love it. I'm Michelle, and this is my vision for you. If you've been struggling, if you've been stressed out, you can't lose weight, you've been stress eating, your digestion stinks, then you are in the right place. In each of these episodes, I am striving to bring you closer to this better world, and I recently created a workshop that will kickstart your journey in doing just that. And it's my Stop Stressing, Start Fitting into Your Skinny Jeans workshop. You can find it at iCutTheMustard.com/Stop Stressing workshop. Welcome to the I Cut the Mustard show, where a plant-based diet and small, simple moves make healthy change happen, and where we believe that you already have what it takes to slice through any barrier that stands in your way. Shing! You're sharp enough. You cut the mustard. Hey, so going off the vision that I just created for you, that healthy eating and living can be easy, that you don't have to stress out about food or stress eating, our topic today in episode number 51 is it's going to taste bad. Now, we're continuing our discussion on the reasons why we stress eat. And if you haven't listened to episode number 22, I kind of explain how when we overeat or stress eat, it's because of something that we're thinking. There are reasons in our head why we think it's a good idea or it's beneficial to us in some way or helps us avoid pain in some way. So in episode 22, the 10 real reasons why you're overeating, I explain some of the major reasons why we continue to overeat. Even though we want to stop, right? When we want to stop stress eating and start fitting into those skinny jeans. So today is just another one of those. It's going to taste bad. And in past episodes, we talked about missing out, right? The reason that we don't want to just eat healthy food, dandelion greens all the time is because we think they're going to taste bad. And today I want to explore that a little bit more because this is one of the things that I hear a lot. And I actually personally get offended when people come over to my house or eat my food. It's mostly little kids, right? Like I've made more of like a healthy cookie or I've made a healthy meal and like my kids' friends will come over and they'll have a bite and they'll be like, ew, that's disgusting, right? Because they're really honest. But even as adults, right, there's a lot of us that think, oh, I could never eat that. It tastes terrible, right? Or a lot of my clients say, I want to eat healthy food, but I want it to taste good. I don't want to deprive myself, right? I want my food to taste good, which I think is totally fine. But there's this idea that healthy food doesn't taste as good as unhealthy food. So I want to debunk this for you a little bit because it's not the food's fault at all, okay? So I want you to stop blaming food. It doesn't taste good or bad. The food itself is neutral. And I think that you'll agree whenever you think about other cultures. Think about visiting another country or maybe taste testing the food from one of your international neighbors. It isn't always delicious, right? But they're enjoying it so much, right? Sometimes the Indian spices are just too much, or there tends to be one food from each culture that we think, oh my goodness, how are they even eating that? Like fried grasshoppers or pork rinds from the south, or maybe they've got some snake they're eating, or a cow's tongue, or natto from Japan. And the list can go on, right? And I just want to share a quick story from whenever I went to Japan on a mission, a religious mission. I usually think of myself as someone who has a broad palate, and I like to try new things, and kind of, as a kid, I was taught to just always eat what was on my plate or eat what somebody gives you and say thank you, right? So I'm willing to go for it. But whenever I first got there, a lot of the food didn't taste that great to me, right? It was too fishy. A lot of it was too fishy. And even the desserts, they made stuff out of black beans, and they make dessert out of black beans, right? So I'm like, black beans, that's gross. And it's not as sugary. So it just didn't taste as great. I ate it, but I didn't love it. But then, much to my surprise, a couple weeks later, I found myself enjoying the exact same dish that just a few weeks earlier I didn't like. And in the end, I came to love and appreciate so many of their foods, and I overcame my lifelong aversion for onions while I was in Japan, right? So the point is that different cultures, different people, different families have different foods that they eat. And the reality is that we all enjoy them, right? And it isn't that our tongues are genetically created differently in each culture to enjoy those foods, right? Taste is an acquired thing, and we know that it changes all of the time. Have you ever heard that old saying? They used to say it all the time whenever I was a kid, that your taste buds change every 7 years. Well, it's wrong, right? I thought, oh yeah, that's true, because when I was younger, I used like this and now I eat that. But it's not just like magically every 7 years your taste buds change, right? That's gotta be wrong. So actually they change really, really quickly within a few weeks or even a few days. So whatever we eat, you begin to like. So it's not that the food tastes terrible, because you determine the taste, what tastes good, by what you're eating, right? It's not that the food tastes terrible. It's your perception of the food that tastes terrible. Meta, right? Are you weighing it out, right? So it's not that the food is good or bad. It's not that dandelion greens taste bad and cookies taste good. It's because your body is used to tasting the sugary cookies, and some other things are going on that we're going to talk about in a second, but they can learn to taste dandelion greens and be happy with it. And I'm using dandelion greens because most of us think of that and we just they're bitter, and they're honestly gonna take some time to acquire that taste, right? So it's that way for a number of reasons, and I want to dive into those. So one of them is that your taste buds change, like we talked about. There's also your microbiome inside you that dictates some of your urges and your cravings, and that changes as well, depending on the foods that you eat. And then your brain changes, your desires, your actions in your brain, right? Your chemistry in your brain changes. So let's just dive on in. So your taste buds. I want to share this story from Dr. Goldhammer. He works at True North, and it's a care center in California where they do a lot of medical assisted fasting. He's a fasting expert. People go there and they fast for do water fasting for 20 or 40 days. So you're going and you're not eating anything, just drinking water and sleeping and just letting your body heal itself. And so it's medical assisted fasting. So he had shared this really cool story about some patient that came into his facility. There was a union nearby that had just started covering this fasting in their insurance coverage program, and they had sent someone from the union to go and to get healthy. Like, he was struggling with high blood pressure and just some pre-diabetes, pre-heart disease kind of stuff. He was in bad shape, so they sent him there and said, hey, go there and get healthy. But the guy didn't know what he was doing. He didn't know what he was walking into. So he went into the facility and started hearing about the fasting and the eating all the healthy food. And he was just shocked, like, wait, I think I'm in the wrong place. So anyways, this is a guy that was really resistant. They gave him the food, the natural whole food, the vegetables that doesn't have any salt or oil or additives, no processed foods. And he ate the food and he did not like it. He's like, I think I'm going to die if I eat food like this, right? This sounds like my dad sometimes whenever I feed him stuff. He's just like, yeah, I would die if I had to eat that. I'm not eating that, right? So a lot of us go into healthy food with that attitude. We love the desire and the pleasure that we get out of our food. So we think that we're going to have to give that up if we start eating healthy or if we stop stress eating. So same thing for this guy, totally resistance, but somehow they convince him to stay there and to do the fasting. So Dr. Goldhammer talks about how fasting resets your taste buds and really changes them. So by the time, which you can imagine, right? You're not eating for a while, but also just physically your body is changing. And so by the end of his fast, whenever they started feeding him the same food again, he said something like, wow, your cooks finally know how to cook something, right? and it took them a long time to tell him that it's the same food, that your taste buds and your perception of the food has changed. So pretty cool. And I think it's really interesting because it's like our thoughts, right? The circumstances are all the same. You can be in the same situation and have totally different thoughts about it than the person next to you. So same thing with your taste buds, that you could be eating the same food and you love it and the person next to you hates it, right? And it's because we just come from a different place, right? We have different experiences. We've been eating different foods. So our taste buds can change, and they can change really quickly. So another thing that I want to touch on is the microbiome. And I took a course from Summer Bach, who is an expert coach on gut health. And in the course, she was teaching about the microbiome and how it affects our cravings. So let's just imagine that you've got some little happy bacteria inside your gut, right? The bacteria that lives in your gut is what digests and breaks down a lot of fibers and other things. It digests a lot of the food that you eat. So all the bacteria in there are what is digesting it and making it bioavailable for the rest of your body. So there's lots of different kinds of bacteria. There's bacteria that love to eat sugar, and there's yeast in there, right? Yeast loves to eat sugar. So there's types that love to eat sugar. There's types that love to break down the meat. There's just billions and billions of different kinds of bacteria, and they do different things. They break down different things. So if I am eating tons of meat and dairy and processed foods and sugar, then I'm going to have I'm feeding certain kinds of bacteria in my gut, right? So I'm going to have a totally different gut microbiome is what they call it. But so there's just going to be lots of bacteria in my gut that love those things that I eat because that's what I feed, right? But if I change my diet and I start eating mostly vegetables and whole foods and grains, then the bacteria in my gut are going to shift because I'm feeding a different kind of bacteria. So the ones that love the stuff that I used to eat are going to start to die because I'm not feeding them anymore. And I'm going to feed these other more beneficial bacteria with fiber and prebiotics, right? That's what it's called. All the good fiber that's going to feed the good bacteria. So that's also, this is an aside, but that's also why just dumping probiotics into your body isn't going to solve your problem 100% because you're dumping them in, but you're not feeding them with the things that they love. So she talks about how those little guys have cravings of their own and they send signals to your brain about what they want, right? So if you're eating tons of vegetables, it'll send signals to your brain that we love vegetables. We're hungry for more vegetables. But if you're eating lots of sugar or junky foods, then it's going to send the message that we need sugar. We need junky foods. So in her course, she was using this analogy to warn you that whenever you stop eating sugar or you stop eating some of the junky foods that you're currently eating, then that bacteria that's dying is obviously going to be mad. And that's where cravings come from, that your bacteria is telling your brain, hey, we need more. We're dying. This is dire. So I want to go back and research a little bit more, but she seems to know what she's talking about. So that could be one way that our taste buds are changing and that our cravings, it's just one way that influences our cravings and our taste buds and helps things change for us, right? And then the last one I want to touch on is your brain and your brain chemistry, right? So we talked about before with addictions like sugar and alcohol and other addictive foods, your brain has certain reactions to those chemical reactions that make you want it again, right? And that creates pathways in your brain's pleasure pathways and memory pathways to say, that was delicious, we want to do it again, right? So these pathways are being built in your brain, but you're also building a tolerance, right? So that as these pathways are built, if I eat one cookie and I eat one cookie again and again and again, then there's a tolerance that starts to be built up so that I'm going to need more and more and more in order to feel the same buzz that I got the first time. So this is really obvious with things like alcohol, where you notice that, there's certain people who've been drinking for a long time who can handle to drink a lot more, right? They can handle a lot more alcohol, and it takes a lot more alcohol for them to get a buzz. And that's because your body has created a tolerance. It's your brain's protection mechanism. It's getting overstimulated by these artificial things that we put in our body. And because of that, it sends another chemical in to protect itself. It's saying, whoa, we're getting too much stimulation, sends in another chemical that's going to take that stimulation down a notch. So because of that, then it's going to take you more the next time in order to feel stimulated the same way that you did, because your body's got this protective mechanism, right, to dampen it down. But what that means overall is that if you eat processed foods that are very stimulating, then your body can't taste the unprocessed foods. They're not going to taste as good, right? It can't taste them as well because that pleasure isn't going to hit your brain as much, right? Your brain's going to need a higher and higher stimulation in order to feel good, in order for it to taste great. But as you eliminate those foods from your diet, then that brain chemistry can change and your sensitivity increases again, so that whenever you go to eat normal, natural foods, they start to taste better because your brain isn't dampening the pleasure sensor the same way it was when you're eating addictive foods. So I hope that makes sense. So these are the changes that can happen inside your body, and I'm sure there's more of them that we don't even know about yet. But you got your gut microbiome, you got your brain chemistry that's changing, you got taste buds that are changing. So based on what you're eating, those are going to change. So that's the good news. The good news is it's not going to taste bad forever, that you get to choose what tastes good by the foods that you eat. So the best way to make healthy food taste good is to eat healthy food and stop eating unhealthy food that's overstimulating the brain. And again, I just want to reiterate that it's not inherently delicious or inherently disgusting. It's all based on your perception of the food, based on what you're eating now. So whatever you're eating now tastes great. Whatever you're not eating now doesn't taste as great. And that'll shift as you change your food. So just debunking this whole myth that it's going to taste bad, that you're not going to enjoy your food. That's not true. You will enjoy your food just as much as you do now. It's totally up to you and your taste buds as they change. It's also up to you and your brain and how you think about things as well. Because pleasure and satisfaction are an emotion, you can choose to be satisfied with whatever food that you want. You can choose to believe that it tastes good, and it will. So I want to make another note about children and partners. So you may not be alone in this journey. Other people are there with you, and they have taste buds too and opinions too. And I hear a lot from moms that, but my kids will never eat that stuff. They don't like vegetables. They are never going to eat that. But now you know that it's totally possible for them to eat it and to love it just like it is for you. And the reason that they don't currently love vegetables is because they're not eating them. And when you take out the processed foods, then their taste buds are going to readjust, their brain chemistry is going to readjust, and they're going to start enjoying that food. And I remember in Dr. Furman's book, he wrote a book about children and healthy food for your children. And in the book, he talks about just letting them go hungry. And this is hard for a lot of parents, right? We think we can't let our kids go hungry. They'll starve before they eat healthy food. But based off of Dr. Goldhammer's story, we know that fasting is possible for long periods of time. Your kids are not going to die. They're not going to starve themselves. And on top of that, their body can go many, many, many days without food and be totally fine. They can be healthy, and you can study more about fasting if you need to. But they can be healthy and fast, quote unquote, for many days without being unhealthy or in danger. And as they do that, then their taste buds will change naturally. And by the time they eat the healthy food that you have for them, it's going to taste better, right? And then they'll continue to eat that healthy food and they'll start liking it. So there's just another excuse for you that's out of the way now. They can learn to love healthy food. And any more excuses that you have that are popping into your brain right now, because our brain likes to give excuses, you can hop on a stressless call and tell me about them, and I'll help you work through them. So again, if you're stress eating and you just can't fit into those skinny jeans, then I want you to come to my Skinny Jeans workshop, where you'll discover what is keeping you stuck. Why can't you fit into those skinny jeans, and what to do about it? You'll learn how stress sabotages your health and weight loss, why you could be doing all the right things and still not losing weight, why diet and exercise alone aren't working for you, how to get better results by being less strict with your diet and exercise routine and having more fun, right? You'll get my simple stop stressing strategy that maximizes weight loss and digestion. And you can use my stressless ninja hack that I'm going to give you that'll 10 times your results. So during the workshop, we'll be doing a lot of interactive coaching and things about the things that are stressing you out, so that you'll leave knowing not only what to do, but exactly how to stop stressing. So get stress relief during the workshop, and then take the things that you learned to stop stressing so that you can lose the weight and the digestion can get better over the next several weeks and beyond. So this isn't a quick one pill solution. I'm not promising that you're going to lose 20 pounds during the workshop, but you'll have the tools to lose those 20 pounds thereafter in the following weeks. Plus, you'll get a Skinny Jeans worksheet and some bonus video training. So go to iCutTheMustard.com/stop stressing workshop to check that out. Yoo-hoo! Thanks for jamming with me. If you enjoyed it, go ahead and click subscribe before you leave, and I'll see you next time for another great episode of the I Cut the Mustard show.